we ended up talking to a urologist. So with the urologist, back to the PSA scores being a slightly elevated, I did have a digital exam. I was told slightly swollen, and there was a recommendation to have, I believe it's an ultrasound. And from the ultrasound, we went to MRIs. Now, in the meantime, I'm trying to understand what's going on because I'm not getting any real answers or any indicators. It's just other than the PSA scores and trying to understand what may be happening. But I don't have a clear idea of what we're doing here. All I know is that we've been trying to figure out some things regarding my blood pressure, my cholesterol, and some other indicators that I don't remember off the top of my head. So then finally, after we had the MRI, I was told that I had prostate cancer. And I go, well, why didn't they give me an idea or a clue to what that may be leading to, these exams, the MRI, the ultrasound, all stemming from the PSA into the digital, which I know these are all, I think they call them identifiers leading up to these progressions. So, okay. But I still don't have a clear idea or understanding as to what's happening with having prostate cancer. They weren't clear identifiers to me, some erectile dysfunction, and I think that was also contributing to some of the medication and other mental concerns that I had thinking about all of this. So finally, I had an opportunity to talk to specialists. I'm just saying the referral was, Mr. Myers, you only have two options based on these Gleason scores. And this is something else I had to think about. What are Gleason scores? I had to look that up on my own, try to have a better understanding of what that is, what that means, which is the concern. And I'm going, really? Okay, well, I have to understand that. I don't understand that. And that wasn't necessarily explained to me well enough to make me feel comfortable, even listening to the two specialists that I had to make an appointment to see. One had to do with radiation, and the other had to do with surgery. And I said, these are my only options. I said, wow. I mean, the impression that I got was that I was at a low risk, and other than really talking about any other options other than radiation, we're talking surgery. And I said, that's really not what I was hoping for, not knowing what I was going to be told based on the results, and where I'm not an educated person in the sense of understanding these medical terms and what Gleason and PSA and all that means. I had to do a lot of digging and researching for myself. And of course, there's a lot of information out there, and we're a little evasive. And that caused concern, caution. So I talked to some friends who I knew were going through similar things and did have a procedure, and was trying to understand what it is that I need to be looking for. What should I see to know for myself if this is what's going to happen? And then once I started reaching out, trying to find out more information that would help me, then that's when a friend referred me to AdMeTech. And I appreciated that referral very much so, because I talked to a Dr. Stern, very nice lady, very kindly spoken. And she helped me to understand that, I have every right to have the concerns that I have, and I should have my answers for the questions that I have regarding this whole thing about my life now going to go through some kind of change. If you don't make the right decision, it's just a big change. And I know that because of the testimonies of 2 or 3 people that I talked to. And I appreciate the quickness in the response and her efforts and the willingness to help me by referring me to someone else who can give me some answers. And I appreciate that very much. The person I did talk to, it was Dr. Adam Keibel. And I liked him. Not that I didn't like the other guys. The other guys was just real technical, and and I don't have a problem with technical as long as they're good at what they do. But at the same time, for a person hearing that they have prostate cancer, or any cancer for that matter, anything that's that concerning for the first time, I think there should be some, I don't want to say necessarily kindness, but at least some thought behind who you're talking to. This is not another number or another person, okay, that you see thousands of in a month or week or how many, whatever the number is. Don't treat me like that number. And that's how I felt in the first two conversations with the two specialists that I spoke to. But with Dr. Kaibo, I did not have that feeling. I had a genuine rapport with him, and he was willing to take the time that he could allow to give me, to share with me some things to give me a better understanding. Now, I thought, in all honesty, is that he was going to tell me the same thing that I was already told. It's either surgery or radiation, and that wasn't the answer that I got. I got one that was more less evasive, if you will. One that was, well, you're not there. And he explained to me the elevation of the PSA and how sometimes that those can be read a different way depending on how it's perceived. And not to say anything negative about anyone, he was just saying, some experts may see something a little different. And the same thing with my MRI. Of course, he looked at the records, the identifiers to show that, so he can understand how to have this conversation with me. And he also performed a digital examination to help me to understand that he needed to see or feel for himself what's going on. And the confirmation was, no, you're not swollen. This seems to be normal. Him being a surgeon and an expert at his craft, he confirmed with me that that's not something that he would recommend, which is surgery, the removal of the prostate. And I was kind of surprised. And I said, why? Because I wasn't expecting that answer. And he took the time to explain to me three different scenarios. One, radiation, the other was removal, and the other one was observation, monitoring. And why each one of them were recommended, but why we wouldn't choose the two of the three, if you will. And then we also talked about radiation, which is like a fusion type process where it's like a saber or laser radiation concentration, and you probably have several sessions depending on what it takes to take care of that. And of course, there's side effects that you have to deal with concerning that process. And he said no to both of those, and felt that strongly that based on his readings and his pathologist and what the readings were regarding my records and what he felt from the digital exam, that those two procedures, those two options weren't necessary. The better option would be observation or monitoring, if you will. And I was more happy and elated, not just because of the news, but the fact that, now I don't have to think as much about these other two options, because I thought that was it, that I just had to make a decision based on one of these two, not realizing that I had a third option, which to me is the better option, because the way it's explained to me, the cancer may not even grow any more than what it is. It may not progress anymore, or it may, and then I have the other options available. But if I do one of the other two, then now my options are limited. And then if need be, follow up with a biopsy. I can agree with that. So that's pretty much my story. I appreciate the people who stepped in to help me out, to help me have an understanding, to make a better decision. And I feel like if I ever hear anyone talking about prostate or anything of that nature, urinating, having problems with urine, I'm going to speak up, because I don't think there's enough at least in my experience, people of color who talk about their manhood, if you will, like that. It's either they're embarrassed or there's not too many people who've had experience with talking to others about something that, you know, it has an effect, but it doesn't have to be that way. At least get educated in some way. Because if I didn't have, I believe, the situation which started all this, and it started this path, this journey of trying to figure out some things, I probably wouldn't have known I had prostate cancer until maybe I would have to do option one or two. I'm very happy that that didn't happen.